filming on death row, that's not an easy thing to do. Can you just talk about the conditions of what it takes to get access and how that worked?
Well, there are clear rules. You have to contact an inmate in writing, and that was done through creative differences. And only if he answers back and invites you, then you have to ask the warden. And we actually had fairly easy conditions because they asked us, yeah, you're German, and there were security checks. And for whom is this? And I said, Discovery Channel. And they said, ah yeah, Discovery Channel. So that helped. It helped. I played it casually, and it had.
It was a false flag operation, basically.
Yeah. And of course, attorneys in one case wanted to film with an inmate, and his attorney let us know he didn't like the idea. There was an appeal going on, and his client on death row was prone to say stupid things, which might be damaging for his chances of an appeal, and of course we backed out right away.
Well, the interesting thing about this, and I'm struck again watching it, is the time limits. Werner had 45 minutes to 50 minutes. What you see with Michael Perry is all he got, and practically every piece of that interview is in this film.
50 minutes.
50 minutes, that's it. No introduction, nothing. And there's this ticking clock, and the thing that, again, I should be saying this, I'm the producer, but I actually am in awe of how much Werner extracts from people in this short amount of time. There's this sort of Herzogian Vulcan mind meld going on where he just sort of pull this stuff out. And it's really extraordinary. I just want to say something about Investigation Discovery, because truly not only would the film not have happened without them, but when we would apply, we'd go through and we just filled it out. We never would mention the name Werner Herzog. We just applied, we're doing a thing for this network. And then we'd start getting calls, oh, we like that Werner Herzog guy. Where'd you get that guy from? So Werner really they didn't really know who they were dealing with at all, often.
I played the Bavarian from the mountains.
The barefoot Bavarian sound man. No.
Reverend Lopez, he had to be at an execution 40 minutes later. He arrived, I had never seen him in my life. He arrived and pointed to his wristwatch and he said, quick, 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 I have to be out there in 20 minutes. So I had 20 minutes with him. I barely introduced myself. And what I like to say, because I've met a few film students out there who are here in the audience, there are certain things you do not learn in film school. When I asked him, he was kind of superficial and about a redeeming, merciful God in paradise awaiting everyone. And I really wanted to crack him open, and I asked him cheerfully, describe an encounter with a squirrel. So all of a sudden he unravels.
But why? What possessed you? Why did you?
I don't know, it just comes to me easily. But you see...
Ladies and gentlemen, Werner Herzog.
No, you have to be, you have to direct a film. We are directors. People always keep telling, documentary filmmakers should be just like the fly on the wall. No, they should not. We should direct the movies. We are storytellers. We are filmmakers. So I accept my duties and I try to do it right. The other one was Jared Talbot, who was stabbed with a screwdriver through his chest. And he was a coincidence. The young lady who was a former bartender brought him along, and she said, I brought him along because he knew Jason Burkett as well, and he knew Perry. So I asked him to go out of eyesight and earshot so we could talk to her. I didn't want him to listen in, so and then I introduced myself very briefly, and I felt the callus in his hands. I mean, it was massive, hard callus. And I immediately liked him, and you can tell how much I like him, but I didn't meet him more than 20 minutes in my entire life.
Well, there's a curiosity, I think, that suffuses all of Werner's film, and this one in particular, where I approach these things working with Werner almost as a critic, wanting to see the films I'd like him to make. And in this film, you really get a look under the hood. You really see the process. I know you loathe verite and, you know, accountant's truth, ecstatic truth, but in this case, this really is the accountant's truth of how it's made. What you hear is what you get, the interaction. It's a very raw film, and it's very transparent in that effect. There isn't, it's hard to imagine two more different films than Cave of Forgotten Dreams in this. One is...
No. Both are looking deep into recesses of human beings.
That's true. One's a descent into the, you know, down into down into the depths to confront the human soul, and the other's about French cave art. So, I mean, there is that going on. But.
Yeah, it's not only metaphorically. I always try to look deep into what constitutes humanness.
And squirrels.
In squirrels, yeah. And this has always been my clear attitude with everyone in the film, particularly those on death row. The crimes are monstrous, completely and utterly monstrous in many cases. However, the persons on death row, they are not monsters, they are simply human. And I was just working on one case on a woman on death row for a project we are doing together with Investigation Discovery. It's shorter films, a mini-series of short films, 1-hour programs. And I talked to a prosecutor who prosecuted a woman who is on death row. And she said, en passant, very casually, she says to me, yeah, you are trying to humanize her, and raps on and raps on. And when she finishes her rap, I said to her, well, madam, I'm just not trying to humanize her. She is human, period. So that creates a moment of awkward silence, but I had to say it.
And you're not hesitant about...
No, I have no problems to tell them that, for example, the fact that I sympathize, for example, with certain legal aspects of an appeal does not necessarily mean that I have to like them. And I say point blank, I mean at a distance like between us. And after 120 seconds, the conversation could have ended right there, and you have to go for it anyway. Well, they have to know where you are standing.
This film was interesting because the first interview for this was Michael Perry, and we hadn't even started editing Cave of Forgotten Dreams yet. Werner, it was a month after you came out of the cave, this interview just popped up, and Michael Perry, with 8 days to live, said, yeah, I'll talk to Werner Herzog. So we said to Werner, I remember calling you from London saying, what do you think? Do you want to go down there? And he said, well, I'm in caves now, and he just went for it. He went down. He was well versed in the case, and thank God you did it, because this man 8 days later was no longer.
Maybe I should also say one thing. Since Perry was still having an appeal, last-minute appeal for clemency, and Burkett is trying to get a retrial, which he probably will not get, and if he gets it, he may, because it's starting from square one. It could mean that if he really gets a new trial, he will probably end up on death row, because they can sentence it as if nothing had happened. Now there's a new trial. He most likely would end up on death row. And he had these appeals going on, and I allowed, of course, both of them to maintain their innocence. And in Burkett's case, I didn't want to make him look too bad. There were things you see, for example, at the car, they took possession of Jason Burkett put Gage, like 12-gauge shotgun. That was his nickname after the murders. He called himself Gage. And on one side of the car there was AB, and on the other side 23, the number 23. And I said to him, Mr. Burkett, am I right in the assumption that you took possession of this car because you apparently believed it was yours? And you put Gage in there and you put these signs. Yes, yes, he put it in there. And I said, am I right? AB signals Aryan Brotherhood, and 23 among you means the 23rd letter of the alphabet, W, for white supremacy. And he just looked at me, and he knew it didn't look good for him. And he said,
was up.
And he said, no, I have nothing to do with Aryan Brotherhoods. So I didn't put it in the film because it would have been very easy to make them really look bad.
Well,
and there's a certain fairness.
Well, the thing is that the interesting thing is the tightrope you walk. There's this level of fair. You just somehow navigate through it where you don't come down on anything. It's this sort of ballet where just when I think it's going to teeter over one way, it snaps back the other way, and in the end there's a flurry of snapbacks that leave you sort of like, what the hell? And then credits.
I remember when you were here last year, you were talking more about the interviews you were doing on death row, and now that the film is finished, I hear you talking more about the encounters with the victims' families. And, I wonder if you could speak about that.
Well, I think there's this mood out there. We are going to see a film, an issue film about capital punishment. And this is a big debate now, about capital punishment. Now the film is not the platform for that. The film has many other issues or many other elements out there. And on purpose I put in the title Into the Abyss, and then it says a tale of death, a tale of life. Because from the material that I filmed, all of a sudden something emerged. And it was the urgency of life. It was life, urgency of life, pregnancies, hummingbirds. Why are there so many of them cut in the film? Because that's lingering. So I didn't want to narrow down the perception of an audience. Yeah, this is an issue film, and we are hotly debating capital punishment. No, we are not.
I think of it if the death penalty is this rock thrown into that lake you saw in the film. This film is about the ripples. It looks at the ripples, and it doesn't take a side. It just looks at the ripples as they go out. And again, I confess I missed the Toronto premiere, so this is the first time I've actually seen it in the dark with all of you. So I'm reacting to it in my critic role now, saying, Jesus, I'm trying to make sense of this, because it looks a lot different when you're looking at it on your laptop.
I make it a little bit clearer in the 4 films about death row inmates, the shorter films, the television films. And I'm saying in the opening commentaries that I'm not an advocate of capital punishment. Coming from a different historical background and being German, a guest in your country, I respectfully disagree with the practice of capital punishment. And of course, when I say with a different historical background, I mean the atrocities, the barbarism of the Nazi time, where you had an excessive use of capital punishment. Parallel to that,
you were 6,
a systematic program of euthanasia, and on top of it, a genocide of 6 million Jewish people. So end of story, it's not even an argument. But I would be the last one, or would you like as an audience, me, a German, telling the American people what to do and how to improve? It would be just ridiculous. So my position is, I respectfully disagree, period.
Let me ask you about the range of work the two of you have taken on, from Grizzly Man to Encounters at the End of the Worlds to Cave of Forgotten Dreams to this. How do you pick these wildly different projects? How does one move from the other?
Well, Werner says they pick him with maybe a little assist from.
Well, Grizzly Man was an interesting story because Eric was extremely helpful. He never had met me, and we ran into each other in an obscure little festival in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, about wildlife films. And I was trying to get the white diamond off the ground. And Eric said, you're Werner Herzog, and welcome here, and what are you doing? And so I explained.
I think I said to my fellows, what the fuck is Werner Herzog doing?
Yeah, something like this. Let's delete the expletive, but I understood that it was meant in a friendly way. So, and Eric got me in touch with, for example, a network executive of Japanese television. And they ended up to be my partners. And I was very grateful, paid him a visit then back when I was back in Los Angeles. And Eric showed me around all his people in the editing base, and everybody was working, and we sat together and just had a short conversation. And when I left, I had misplaced my keys, and I didn't know where my car keys were. And I looked at the table, and there were many papers and other things, and Eric shoved an article to me thinking that I had spotted something. And I swear to God, I was not out for a film project. I was searching for my keys. So I'd read this, and I left, and I actually read it pretty much right away, and instantly I was back. And that's what...
And then Werner said, we had gotten the material to Treadwell, and he said, well, what are you doing with it? And I said, well, I think we're going to do a feature documentary. And he said, well, who's going to direct it? And I said, well, I think I am. And Werner stares at me and said, I want to direct this film. And
I said it even more apodictic. I said, now I will direct this movie.
Yes. So my career flashed before my eyes, and I had this insight that I could either direct a good film or maybe produce a great one. Plus I heard there were a lot of mosquitoes up in Alaska, and I didn't want to go up there. So
Eric,
the rest is film history.
Eric, you would have made a very fine film, but it would have been a different one. I think we should have both made a film right then and there.
Yeah, well,
but it didn't somehow.
How many people want to do that? How many people want to make a film alongside Werner Herzog? I've got 8 more days of great films. Jonathan Demmy's going to be here on Friday. Barbara Koppel's here with a new film. She's here tonight, in fact, somewhere in the audience. Thank you very much for coming, and thanks especially Derek Nelson and Werner Herzog.